Assalamu alaikum. Today I will discuss about pleural effusion. So all of you know that what is pleural effusion? According to Davidson, here all the contents I have copied from directly from Davidson. So I hope all of you will be benefited inshallah. So what is pleural effusion? Pleural effusion is the accumulation of serous. You have to mention this word, serous fluid, where within the pleural space, that means the space located between the parietal and visceral pleura. Okay, so here are some same like a definition but different from each other, such as accumulation of frank pus, not serous fluid. This is called empyema. Accumulation of direct blood is called hemothorax. Accumulation of chyle is called chylothorax. So our today's topic is pleural effusion. That means accumulation of serous fluid within pleural space. It is known as pleural effusion. So whenever you know some terms, pathological terms, you have to think that why does it occur? That means the causes or etiology of that terms. That's why now we will know about causes of pleural effusion. Okay, so you have to know that the serous fluid which is accumulated within pleural cavity, it may be transudative or it may be exudative. Okay, both types of fluid may accumulate there. Okay, so what are the causes that leads to transudative pleural effusion? These are increased hydrostatic pressure, decreased plasma colloidal osmotic pressure. Now think about what are the pathological condition that leads to increased hydrostatic pressure. Very easy, just you have to keep the basic knowledge, such as someone have heart failure or someone is suffering from congestive heart failure. Okay, now let's see briefly here. Suppose this is a heart and the patient is suffering from congestive heart failure. That means the blood cannot effectively come out from the left ventricle. Okay, that means blood get accumulated within left ventricle. That's why enough blood cannot come from left atrium into left ventricle, because the blood of left ventricle cannot come outside of the heart. That's why the blood of left atrium cannot move forward. Okay, so if the blood of left atrium cannot move forward, that means what do you know? That means left atrium drains blood from lungs. Okay, so as left atrium cannot be drained into left atrium, that's why the blood from pulmonary vein cannot move forward. That's why here is a capillary, and this capillary is known as pulmonary capillary. This capillary known as pulmonary capillary. As the oxygenated venous blood cannot move forward due to the left atrium congestion, that's why the hydrostatic pressure within this pulmonary capillary, the hydrostatic pressure will rise. If hydrostatic pressure within pulmonary capillary will rise, then what will be happen there? You can easily understand. That means the transudative plasma will come outside from the capillary into the potential space. That means pleural cavity, because you know here is the pleural cavity. So all of the transudative fluid will get accumulated in this pleural space. By this mechanism, increased hydrostatic pressure leads to the development of pleural effusion. Okay, so I have described here one mechanism, that means increased hydrostatic pressure due to heart failure. Okay, so now know about the decreased plasma colloidal osmotic pressure. So what are the conditions that leads to decreased plasma colloidal osmotic pressure? You know that the plasma protein maintains our plasma colloidal osmotic pressure. So if the plasma protein level decreases, such as due to liver cirrhosis or nephrotic syndrome, nephritic syndrome, that's why in your body plasma protein level will fall down. That's why the blood vessels will not able to keep plasma within blood vessels or within circulation. That's why the plasma or fluid portion of your blood come outside of the blood vessels, and they will start to accumulate into the potential spaces such as peritoneal cavity, pericardial cavity, pleural cavity. And if this get accumulated into pleural cavity, we call it pleural effusion. Okay, that means, just I again briefly explain it so that you can easily understand it. Suppose this is a blood vessels, okay, and here it is plasma protein, albumin. These two are plasma protein, albumin. So they just stick the water such as a foam. Think about that. This pink circle are water molecule. Okay, so plasma protein, albumin soaked the water in its surface. So suppose you have a nephrotic syndrome or liver cirrhosis, that's why your body cannot synthesize enough plasma protein, or your body is losing excessive protein through urine. That's why plasma protein amount is lost. So the water molecule is now detached. Look at, just before this water molecule was attached into plasma protein, now they are detached. So it is the tendency of water to come outside of the blood vessels and get accumulated into this potential space. So suppose here is the pleural space. So there's water now accumulated got here, and it is called the pleural effusion. I think all of you have understood this matter easily. Alhamdulillah. So let's move forward. Now these are the causes of transudative pleural effusion, and now we will know about the exudative cause. So just one thing you have to know, that wherever you will get the infection or inflammation, and you know that in case of inflammation the vascular permeability will increase, and if the vascular permeability increases, then what happens? The plasma leak out from the blood vessels into interstitial space or potential space. Okay, just same as the manner. Okay, here the plasma protein lost, but now will be, in case of exudative inflammations, you know that the lining of blood vessels is endothelial cells. So these are the endothelial cells. Okay, now look at the figure, that there is no interendothelial space or very little interendothelial space, no space here. Think about that, no space. But whenever there is any inflammation such as tuberculosis, pneumonia, or any viral infection, then what happens? Due to inflammatory response, your endothelial cells will become apart from each other. That's why now there will be endothelial space due to endothelial cell contraction. Now you can definitely see here that endothelial space is formed. Here is a gap just. So the fluid portion and also an alarming amount of protein will come outside of the blood vessels to potential space, and this is the pleural space. So again pleural effusion is happened. Now this is some extent concentrated than the earlier, that's why it is called exudative, and here you will get protein content is more than the previous one, that's why we call it exudative. And here the fluid is some extent less thicker, and now and protein amount is very low or absent, this is called transudative. Okay, now let's see the chart of causes of pleural effusion from Davidson. Now we have to know mainly the common causes at first, then if you can remember the uncommon cause. Okay, so look at the chart. Pneumonia. So think what type of pleural effusion will occur there, transudative or exudative? Definitely exudative, because pneumonia is caused by pneumococci or streptococci bacteria, so there will be inflammation. So if there is inflammation, that means exudation will occur. Tuberculosis, just same thing, mycobacterium tuberculosis induced inflammation will occur in your lung parenchyma, then there will be inflammations, so vascular permeability will rise, that means exudative pleural effusion will occur. Pulmonary infarction, definitely some emboli blocked your pulmonary arteriole, that's why the lung parenchyma dependent on that artery will suffer from hypoxia, that's why there will be hypoxic cell injury, and if cell injury and necrosis occur, then there will be inflammations, and if inflammation occurs, vascular permeability will rise, that means exudative pleural effusion will occur. Next one is malignant disease. So this is the one of the important things. You have to know that the malignancy also induce inflammations, and this malignancy actually indicates the mesothelioma, that means the malignancy of pleura. So whenever there will be malignancy within pleura, look at the figure, such as here you can see clearly the pleural cavity. This is the pleural cavity, and you know that the pleural cavity is constantly sucked by lymphatics. Okay, when there will be malignant growth here, such as these are the lymphatics of pleural cavity, which carries the fluid from the pleural space to circulation, so that excess amount of fluid cannot accumulate it there. Okay, I have explained it my another previous classes in physiology. So when there will be malignant growth in pleural lining, that means mesothelioma, look at this malignant growth obstruct the lymphatics opening, that's why continuously pleural fluid, or you know that normally a very little amount of pleural fluid is always there within pleural cavity, but if the lymphatic channel is obstructed by a malignant growth, that's why the pleural fluid is synthesized continuously, but they cannot be drained. Because all of the channel is closed by malignant growth, that's why synthesis is more than drainage, that's why there will be accumulation of pleural fluid within your pleural space. This is called pleural effusion. Now either will it be transudative or exudative? Definitely exudative. Why? Because whenever there will be mesothelioma, so I have explained earlier that always malignancy causes inflammatory changes, that's why the circulations or the blood vessels of pleural cavity will be hyperpermeable, that means their vascular permeability will rise, that's why protein also come outside of the blood vessels into pleural space, that means we will get enough amount of protein in this pleural accumulation, that's why we call it exudative pleural effusion. Okay, next one is cardiac failure. I have just explained it. Another one is subdiaphragmatic disorder such as subdiaphragmatic abscess. Okay, let's see the explanation. Suppose this is the diaphragm, the red is diaphragm, and your lungs is just lie on the diaphragm. This is right lung and this is left lung, and the covering is actually pleura, parietal pleura. Suppose there is formation of a abscess. So abscess is a cardinal example of inflammation where all 4 cardinal signs or 5 cardinal signs you will find. So whenever there will be a abscess formation in diaphragm, that means subdiaphragmatic abscess, that's why the surrounding blood vessels, suppose these are the blood vessels surrounding the abscess. What are these blood vessels? You know that the blood vessels of diaphragm are musculophrenic vessels, posterior intercostal vessels, superior and inferior phrenic vessels. So these blood vessels will be hyperpermeable. That means their vascular permeability will rise due to the inflammatory change caused by the abscess. So whenever look at the figure, whenever the endothelial space increased due to endothelial cell contraction, that means vascular permeability will rise. That's why the fluid or plasma of blood will begin to leak out from the blood vessels. And where will they take their space? Within potential space. So I have told that this is lung, this hard structure is lung. Now this exudation will take their place into this potential space, that means pleural space. Why? Because of increased vascular permeability. Which leads to this increased vascular permeability? This abscess. Okay, so this is another example of pleural effusion. So be connected with me. In my next tutorial, I will explain inshallah the further topics and the next part of pleural effusion.